Since we have 30 minutes and 30 minutes only to give you an espresso shot of referral and business generation advice, we'll get started. Good afternoon and good morning to the folks on the West Coast. My name is Chris Nolan. I'm the new chair of the tort trial insurance section of the American Bar Association and a partner in Holland and Knights, New York and Chicago offices. I really appreciate Teresa Livingston, the director of the tort trial insurance section, being our eyes and ears and setting this up and making sure that we have a great experience here. We are here because of an idea that Michael Vercher and Megan Coluccio and I have talked about some time, how we show and explain to the folks who are members of the tort trial insurance section the various ways that we develop business at this firm and at this organization, and the people that we've met along the way that have made a big difference in our careers. Mike Vercher is a partner at Christian Small in Birmingham, Alabama, has been a member of TIPS for many moons, more than he may admit. For Megan Coluccio, it's the same, and is a current council member with me at the Christie Law Firm that's merging into Baker Sturkey at the start of the new month in September. And we thought that as the newest task force of the tort trial insurance section, focused on referral and business generation, that a great way to have a chat for all of our members to benefit who don't perhaps come to meetings, and some who do, is to talk to two superstar killer lawyers in their area of in their practice that could express some of their experiences and wisdom when they're working and hiring lawyers in the field. So with us, we have the pleasure of Casey O'Brien, who's a corporate counsel for global logistics at Amazon. And we have Stephanie Penninger, who's an associate general counsel of the supply chain for Wayfair and the newest Massachusetts resident as of last month, as I recall. So we're really delighted to have you both. And I'll have the pleasure of asking the first question for our chat. And I'll drive it your way, Casey. When reaching out to outside counsel and their work, what are you using them for primarily?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. I think in my space, it ends up being a lot of transactional matters in contracts drafting and preparing new template forms for us and keeping templates updated for developments in laws and regulations. But we'll also reach out to outside counsel for more programmatic or project reviews and support. Sometimes analysis on how a new regulation might affect our business model, or how we handle one aspect of a project. And then in the rare cases, we have some litigation that we rely heavily on outside counsel for as well.
Is that rare because they make you do all the work yourself, Casey O'Brien, or you settle things before it gets to that?
That's right. We advise and strategize in a way that avoids risk.
That's a good answer. It's a good answer for a recorded program. Stephanie, on your end, you've now been at Wayfair for about a year-ish, but this isn't your first stop in the in-house counsel rodeo. So you have a few experiences at top companies that have a national and international footprint. How are you engaging outside counsel?
So somewhat similarly to Casey, if I've got a project that requires some time and dedication and research, it makes sense to rely on a firm that has the time and resources to be able to look into a deeper issue and report back. A lot of times that's a regulatory matter. Maybe it's putting together a brand new template that we've never done before that is maybe a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, or maybe I've got good starting points, but I need a thought leader to be able to help me finalize the product or put something, sort of co-develop with me something that's workable in an area that's not been done before. Obviously, if we need to litigate or get advice on something to avoid litigation, we'll engage counsel for those types of deals. And I rely a lot on foreign counsel in the jurisdictions where we don't already have lawyers, to be able to act as outside in-house counsel. And I would say probably also for overflow type work where I just don't have the bench strength to be able to support that myself or with my teams. And yeah, those kinds of things.
Great. Megan, I want to make sure to work in our task force leaders who've given a lot of thought to how we develop business, and especially within our section. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so by way of background, everyone, I'm in a smaller firm currently. I'm on my way to a merger with a more mid-sized firm as of September 1st. And I've been in a large firm in the past. So for Stephanie, my question for you is, as a general counsel member, how do you go through the selection process for those projects where you are engaging outside counsel? Are you looking at firm size, particular lawyer, or are you looking to kind of a larger, more nationally known name when you have a chance to engage with folks outside of the company?
Yeah, so I think of engaging outside counsel a little bit, how I think of investing my own personal wealth or lack thereof. You know, I like to cast my net broadly, and I like to diversify. And actually with this new position, I'm taking some of the time that you have a little bit in the beginning where you're just getting started and people are figuring out who you are, to actually be proactively building out a portfolio that's tailored specific to supporting the supply chain operations here at Wayfair. So in the past, I've been a little bit more reactive, like an issue has arisen and I need to find counsel. Sometimes I don't have the luxury of doing a formal RFP. So I'll turn to folks that I know that they have that specific expertise, that they're going to be able to jump on something quickly, be responsive, and they're going to be able to plug into my business well. So I can save time by actually including them on calls with my business people. Or if I'm on vacation or I'm somewhere where I can't get to the computer or phone, I can literally just plug them in as if they were me. So I've got, you know, a variety of small, medium, and large firms that I look at. And I was sort of looking at some of the trends that I find in terms of my selection. So sometimes I do a little bit more of a mini RFP where it's not like a formal RFP, but I'll think of anyone that I know that could potentially be a good fit for a project. This is where I actually have some time to think about it. And I'll tap into to some of my networks, like with some of my colleagues who they know who might be good. And I do a little bit of an informal request for information. And then I'll typically schedule a call and a face-to-face meeting. Right now, being proactive, I'm sort of reaching out to my network, folks that I know through industry organizations. A lot of them I see actually on this call, you know, through the ABA TIPS committee, the Admiralty Maritime Law Committee, my industry organizations elsewhere that are specific to transportation. And I'll basically create a portfolio of potentials that I can call and look into further in terms of expertise and find overlap, so that when something crops up, I can go to somebody very quickly in the quote unquote Rolodex, and they're already set up in my system and ready to go. So I would say two things that I really focus on, other than somebody I personally know. I know where your children are. Like if something goes wrong, no, I'm kidding. I have a comfort level of people that I know, that I've known over the years, that it's just nobody can compete with. And I have that at small, medium, and large firms now, having been in this industry for a long time. And then somebody who's got former in-house experience is huge to me. Whether they're at a medium, small, or large firm, they know exactly what my day looks like. They can get ahead of me in terms of suggesting, you know, and proposing advice. They make me look good. I can tap them in with my business people. They don't drive my business people crazy. They don't confuse my business people. They don't anger my business people. And they can literally put together an advice email that I can cut and paste and present, or I can literally study it and present it live in a meeting. And I'm addressing every issue that is at hand. I'm able to answer questions that I don't anticipate necessarily that maybe my outside counsel did. And I'm able to, present action items for the business. So those would be, my key items that I'm looking for in outside counsel. Do you have outside experience? Can I plug you in? Do I know you? Have I seen you in action? And am I connected with you through one of my industry organizations? Or are you, or am I connected with you through somebody I know through one of my industry organizations, particularly when it comes to international counsel that I don't necessarily have in my Rolodex?
Before Mike asks Casey the next question, just one follow-up on that, Stephanie. Having come from a mid-sized firm and worked there for many years, what perspective did that bring to looking to hire counsel? Not particularly at your prior firm, although I know you do. Just generally, that having that perspective and then going into these companies and talking with people who come from different size firms, what were you able to shed light on?
Well, so I didn't really, I thought my old firm was big actually, but I know they're not as big compared to your firm. But I guess, I do use my old firm quite a bit, and some of it's just a trust factor, and I know who knows what, and I know what they don't know. So I'm able to kind of call them up with a specific issue and get it handled quickly. And I'm not going to go to them with something I know that they don't handle. But I guess, it was, I learned, I guess, from working there how important business development and industry organizations are, and the networking that comes with that. And through my work there, I was able to tap into quite a big network. Yeah, and there's a trust factor. There's, I want to find value in a firm and in a person. So, so you got to factor in like the size of the project, the complexity of the issue, and and who has the skill set. And yeah, you do have to factor in some of the pricing and what makes sense for a particular matter. I don't know that I'm exactly answering the question there, but
that's good enough.
but yeah, through that, I guess, I guess from working there, it's given me a confidence level that, there's a lot of ways to size something small, medium, and large. And there's a lot of small, medium, and large shirt projects, and some table stakes matters, and then there's some that, are entrees, and you just have to, match the right person with the task at hand.
Perfect. Mr. Vercher, over to you, good sir.
Thanks, Chris. Casey, the question for you is, and as I understand it, you started working at sort of a medium-sized law firm. What, if anything, did that work at a medium-sized firm prepare you to work at a global company like Amazon?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think I will just say, so I started my practice at Hill Rivkins, which is a maritime and transportation firm in New York City. There I did quite a lot of cargo subrogation, insurance coverage and defense, charter party disputes, litigation, arbitration. Here at Amazon, I support the team that does Amazon's cross-border logistics. So it's moving Amazon-owned goods into Amazon fulfillment centers in global marketplaces. And then also I support the team that does Amazon's externalized cross-border freight products. So essentially our NVOCC business. So subject matter wise, I think walking into my role at Amazon, I've been here for about 2.5 years. I kind of thought, okay, maritime, transportation, supply chain, I understand the playing field here. But there was definitely a learning curve on some other areas that I do support my business on. Data privacy, I never ran into that before. Competition, different regulatory matters. And so in those spaces, I have relied quite heavily on both our in-house specialists and our outside counsel to sort of bridge those subject matter gaps. But I guess with respect to, more like hard skills and experience between the firm and preparing me for my role at Amazon, I think both roles and really so many of our, of our roles, of our practices are incredibly client focused. How do I help my internal business client meet their project goals? How do I help them look around corners? How do I help set them up for success so that when we try to scale, it doesn't blow up in our face? Then also, on the litigation side, how do I help my client settle these claims with, low costs, or how do we get an acceptable resolution in this case? So I guess with that in mind, I think the firm really and the clients to helped educate me on how to deliver work product in a way that is most valuable to my clients, whether it's a business client, whether it's an insurance company that I was working with at the firm, or someone else. And what I've found that I leverage most is this predictability in form and format, in delivering a work product in a way where my internal business clients can look at the first line and know exactly what the rest of the email is about, or probably not actually read the email after getting through the first sentence. But answering the question that's being asked, providing additional insight where it's helpful, but knowing when to hold back and avoid sort of muddying the waters. I think that it also, the firm also really taught me how to understand and be aware of what the work product that I'm delivering is going to be used for. And that's been really critical for me, both in selecting outside counsel and then also in advising my internal business clients. Receiving a very thorough analysis from outside counsel that is 5 pages and really addresses in a complete way, addresses all of the the risks of a particular project, or maybe areas for improvement is great. That's awesome. I love to see it. I think it helps set the project up for success, and really builds a lot of trust with outside counsel. But if I need to flip a summary to my business team, I need something drafted in a way that is 4 points, bullet points that I can copy and paste and put in the email. So I think that working at the firm really helped me understand what my clients' needs are, and in a way that translates pretty well to my work at Amazon. I will say though, I think brevity as like an outside counsel versus as like an in-house counsel client is very different. I think going back, I probably would have shortened all of my, updates to the client by about half.
Well, hold on a second there, counselor. I want to make sure I get this straight. Megan Cluccio happens to be in Seattle, Washington, not unknown to Amazon, right? If Megan is called upon by you, which she'll expect the call tomorrow, next day, now that you guys are buddies for the last 19 minutes, is she sending, do you want that 5-page backer so that you have it with like an executive summary that's 4 bullet points? Or are you just saying, well, it's Megan, I trust her, she's done the research and I can call upon it later? What style-wise, what's the best way for her to handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it a little bit depends on what the topic is, but again, for me, who subject matter wise, still dealing with a bit of a learning curve in some of those other areas that now I'm being tasked to issue spot on, I do appreciate the more thorough analysis, because it just gives me better, better context to advise the business when they come back with 3 more questions. Or to understand really the issues, if there's something a little bit more nuanced within my business that maybe isn't totally clear in whatever materials I've sent over to Megan. So I like both.
All right. Well, that's that'll give us some context. You talked a little about the time that you spend on looking to resolve matters, and on from a mediation standpoint, or some sort of dispute resolution mechanism. Are you trying to resolve it first in-house, or do you partner with your outside counsel to give you sort of insights on who may the opposing lawyer be, or different methods that could work with this particular type of dispute to resolve it?
Yeah, it really depends on the issue. I find that the teams that I work with have great relationships with our, with our contracted carriers, and that's been very important to them. And so many times issues maybe don't really get to my desk until they're already resolved, or I guess action items don't really get to my desk. And the teams are able to find commercial resolutions. When things get a little bit sticky, or when there's maybe an ambiguity in a contract that was drafted, or we're not really sure if this will have repercussions, I'll reach out to outside counsel just to sort of do a double check, like, validate that we're on the right page here, going in the right direction. What else do you see that we're not capturing? And that's been really useful. And then when hopefully it goes away, but if the problem does not go away and escalates and becomes like turns into a lawsuit, then at least those our outside counsel is already involved and briefed on the background.
All right. A similar theme for you, Stephanie, picking off of what Casey just said. To get those delicious Wayfair products that we see on those fun commercials to folks by land, sea, and air, sometimes incidents happen. So chances are you can call Mike Vircher in Birmingham, Alabama, as one of our premier trucking lawyers, who's been a leader of the commercial transportation group with the mega conference in March, all those bona fides that you like. If you're trying to settle a matter, do you like Mike being in the trenches, being your pit bull with the opposing counsel, and you work through him, or are you hands-on? Is there a hybrid of it because you've settled a case or 50 over your term all by your lonesome? What strategy do you like working in that way? How do you like working with your counsel from a settlement standpoint, not in the litigation, if you're at the point of settlement?
Yeah, so I think it varies, but I've definitely had experience where, and because this industry is so small, I know either the party, representing my opponent, or I know in-house counsel for the company that's across from me. And typically when a dispute arises, I tend to actually reach out before things hit the fan, if I can, to talk to the in-house attorney. And there have been times where we've been in the middle of litigation and I've sort of kicked out the outside attorneys and done more of an internal head-to-head discussion, so to speak, that strategically worked for me and my company that I was representing. So I do tend to be more hands-on in cases that matter a lot, and particularly in matters where I have relevant expertise. And then in matters that I'm not as interested in, I don't have relevant expertise, and I don't know the players very well involved, and I would probably lean more heavily on the outside counsel and or our insurers or whoever else I'm partnered with to try to resolve the matter. And I've had in the middle of litigation too, where we're really close to settlement. We've had mediation. It didn't quite settle, but we knew we were getting closer. I've actually scheduled calls with the, general counsel or whoever's on the other side in-house to try to see if we can push it over. And that's sometimes helpful too.
It just takes one seafood tower to come together with the opposing counsel to solve it. Isn't that right, counselor?
Right. Well, it's a funny thing. It is a small world, and typically you do have to do business with one another. And when capacity is tight, or even if it's not tight now, we know it will be at some point. It's hard to in this industry, whether you're attorneys or you're business people, to get too ugly with the other side. You may be at dinner the next week working out a plan forward with something, you know, unrelated even, so.
That's the magic of a business and a tight-knit industry. As we only have a few minutes left, just wanted to close with both of you in talking a little about how the tort trial insurance section has played a role in your careers and bar associations generally. You get many invitations to go speak, to provide your knowledge, to meet folks. How do you balance which ones you take and not, and what role has tips played? Stephanie, you want to start?
Sure. So I was lucky enough to rise to the top and be the chair of the Admiralty and Maritime Law Committee of the ABA TIPS group. And I would say that gave me a unique opportunity to get exposure to really interesting educational programming with diverse speakers. I was able to really build a network of folks who I trust. I've even worked with some on outsourcing contract work or other routine transactional work, particularly at times when I don't have the bench strength and my company is, you know, tightening the coffers a little bit in terms of hiring. So that's been helpful from a programming standpoint, a relationship standpoint. And, you know, when things get really, really busy and I need more hands, more people ask me, oh, so you're the supply chain team, like who's on your team? Tell me about that. I'm like, no, I'm here to build one. It's a team of one. So it's been really helpful to be able to lean on folks. And I know most recently, as I mentioned, I'm building out my portfolio and I'm really struggling sometimes to find counsel in Malaysia or some of these interesting parts of the world, Turkey, that I've never worked with before, where a lot of our goods are being manufactured that are working their way to North America and Europe. It's really important for me to, even if, you know, somebody from the Admiralty Committee doesn't work in, you know, practice in that area or you know, do that kind of work, they've been instrumental in connecting me with folks who do. So yeah, networks everything, and it's been a really great place to build one.
Well, whether it's Malaysia, Turkey, or Tampa Bay, you know where you could find good lawyers all the time because of our lovely section. Casey, you'll get the last word. You've been involved in a number of organizations. How do you decide that?
Yeah, and I think you know, Stephanie hit a lot of my points too. For me, I think especially since moving to Amazon and sort of diversifying my workload, I guess, or subject matter workload. I do find that the different organizations are really helpful for education and keeping up to date on things that are going on. The rest of my team does very different work than I do, and so it's often there is often an opportunity to miss out on updates or the debate on some particular court case. So that's been really helpful. I think too, being able to connect with people that I wouldn't necessarily run into is in my day-to-day has been also really important. I have found through different bar associations, other counsel that is a really good resource on a particular topic or in a particular jurisdiction. So I feel like I just stole Stephanie's answer, but it resonated.
You guys are buddies. That works. That works.
Yeah, I would say the corporate committee has been helpful for, like Casey said, for benchmarking.
Well, that's great. And, you know, the new chair of the TIPS Corporate Counsel Committee, Vartan Saravia, is a longtime TIPS member, good friend there of yours, Stephanie, and we're so delighted with that. You know, we're already at 30 minutes. These are supposed to be 30 minutes espresso shots to express some ideas and views, and the fact that this is the inaugural one means a lot to Mike Vircher, Megan Cluccio, and myself and the TIPS section. We couldn't be more happy that you joined us, Casey O'Brien, Stephanie Penninger, and we'll see you around at the next TIPS meetings. Thanks, everyone. And be in touch. We'll be back with some more great programming from the Referral and Business Generation Task Force. Bye-bye now.